So EA just held their earnings call this past week and we got a slight little mention of Battlefield, albeit only a single sentence, unfortunately, but what was said definitely got many of us in the community thinking that there might potentially be some news on the way sooner than we were probably expecting. So I wanted to run you guys through all of that today, not only what was said, but just some other elements that have had me thinking about when the marketing push for this game is going to begin. Now, like I said, just a few days ago, as I'm recording this, EA held their quarterly earnings review. They do this essentially every quarter, so every 3 months, and they kind of just talk about the business, and it's more to do with like the money side of things, but they do mention games and stuff in there, mostly to do with the performance of how they've gone, or I guess their expectations for upcoming games and stuff like that. Now, because Battlefield obviously isn't currently really being supported, I guess we do actually have that Circle of Hell event going on at the moment, but you guys know what I mean. We're not in the midst of the live service anymore, and we're also not right in the lead up to the next game. There wasn't that much about Battlefield, but they did say one thing, and that was Andrew Wilson saying, quote, "You should expect more key developments and news around our massive online communities, including Battlefield and Skate, in the coming quarters." Unfortunately, that was the only thing they actually mentioned about Battlefield, but like I said, it did get a lot of people thinking, and there's been a lot of discussion about this on Twitter and stuff over the past few days. Now, I kind of look at this with two different perspectives. On one side, this is a very obvious answer. Of course, we're going to hear news in the coming quarters, because realistically 2 to 3 quarters is 6 to 9 months. And so we are obviously going to hear something about Battlefield in the next, let's say, 9 months. That's very obvious. And that does make me think that, yeah, this is just one of those answers that's just like kind of goes without saying. There is the other side of it too, though, in that I do think it would be strange for Andrew Wilson to say this if we then don't hear something in the next one, in terms of the next investor call. And that one is currently scheduled for the 4th of February in 2025, which is pretty damn early on in the year. So like I said, there's kind of two ways to look at that. It's almost a non-answer. Obviously, we're going to hear something soon, but that definition of soon could be anywhere from, for some people, a month. For other people, it could be in the next 9 months. So it's a pretty obvious answer, but again, it does feel like it would be kind of weird if we don't actually start hearing stuff by the time of the next investor call. Now, this on its own, I wouldn't have thought anything else about this. I would have just thought, yeah, that's the obvious answer. They're just sort of mentioning it because it's a franchise that they own and that's all there is to it. But something else has had me thinking about this. Why did they reveal the game in September of 2024? It's been about 6 weeks since that initial sort of post from, I think it was an IGN interview with Vince Zampella, and we got essentially an official announcement of the game. We don't know the title and stuff yet, but they went pretty in depth compared to what we normally get that early on, and that is a very rare thing for Battlefield. Now, I've looked back at all of the last 3 Battlefield games, and this is definitely an anomaly that we're getting news in September, because we pretty much only ever get some sort of like official announcement about the upcoming Battlefield game in May or June, when the games will usually launch in October or November. Now, as proof of that, Battlefield 1 was announced in May, Battlefield 5 was announced in May, and Battlefield 2042 was announced in June. Why, in that case, are we getting that initial reveal in September? A good, at least 7 to 8 months before we normally hear anything about the upcoming Battlefield. Now, on one side of it, they could just be giving us a longer lead up in the marketing. Obviously, we know that this game has a 4-year cycle, where usually in the past they've had either 2 or 3 year cycles between one game launching and the next one launching. So maybe they're just kind of thinking, all right, well, we need to say something because it's been a whole 3 years since the last one launched. And if it's still a year away, then we kind of just need to give people something to talk about and stuff like that. So maybe the marketing push, I guess, will start a bit earlier than normal. Something else I've been wondering about, though, that I'm not really ruling out as a possibility, is that I wonder if we could actually get this game earlier than normal. Like I mentioned, Battlefield generally launches in October or November, and that's just been the case not only for Battlefield, but kind of just any big AAA games, or not any, but like 90% of them do generally launch in that September, October, November sort of time frame. That's just how it's always been. It's mostly due to the fact that it's just moving towards the holiday period. That's when people are most likely to spend their money. Parents can buy these games for their kids for Christmas and all that sort of thing. So that is usually when we get these games. But I definitely think over the last maybe 3 to 5 years, we've seen a lot of big AAA games actually launching at just kind of any time throughout the year. It's almost like they're trying to avoid that really busy period. And if you can get away from all those games and launch your game in in like May or something, then it doesn't really have as much competition. So I don't necessarily think this is going to be the case. I do still think it'll launch in October or November, but I think this time around I'm definitely more, I guess, open to that idea. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility. If you told me that in the lead up to previous Battlefield games, I would have just laughed and said, no, it's definitely launching in October or November. Now, though, I'm not quite as sure. I actually think there is a possibility of that. And although I still don't think it will happen, I'm definitely not ruling it out. Now, another reason that kind of goes hand in hand with that is that it's pretty easy to forget GTA 6 is launching next year, although there are actually rumors of a delay. But even then, it would still be in early 2026 at the latest. And it's been a pretty heavily talked about thing that a lot of games that are launching in 2025 may try to sort of avoid GTA 6 and launch in a different period than they normally might, just so that they're not going up against what will be the single biggest piece of media that has ever launched. That game will break pretty much every record when it comes to gaming, and I'm pretty sure it's even going to break records for like movies and everything like that in terms of how many people play it and how much money it makes and all that sort of thing. And I think it's actually fair enough for some of these companies to be thinking, all right, that game's launching, we need to do everything we can to avoid being in the same window. Because let's just say GTA 6 launches in October and then Battlefield also launches in October, that will like drastically hurt their sales. They could potentially lose millions of sales just because not everyone is as much of a hardcore gamer as a lot of people out there, like myself, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this video. We might all buy 10 games a year, but to a lot of people, kids who are in school and they only, they can work 1 day a week, they don't have as much money, or even just people who are doing it tough, they do have to pick and choose between games. And if 2 games that they want to get launched in the same month, a lot of people do just have to choose one game, which I'm going to guess in most cases would be GTA 6 over Battlefield. So that also kind of adds to what I'm thinking there, that again, I don't think it will happen, but it wouldn't be that stupid of EA to try and avoid GTA 6. I know they're very different types of games, but GTA is such a big game that it literally takes people from kind of all player bases, even people who play like FIFA and stuff, which is just completely different. Even a lot of FIFA players will be playing GTA 6. That's how big that franchise is. So again, maybe they are actually looking at launching this earlier to just avoid that hype of GTA 6. Even like I said, if it does get delayed and launches like Feb 2026, that would still only be maybe 3 months after Battlefield, and that would still pretty massively hurt the game. So it's all just had me thinking quite a bit. Like I said, I don't think there's too much to look into here. At the end of the day, it was a very obvious answer. We are going to hear news in the coming quarters. That is not news. We already knew that, but it did definitely just have me thinking, and I wanted to kind of speak that into existence, I guess, for you guys, and also hear your thoughts as well. So be sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know if you think I need a tinfoil hat for spurting nonsense or anything like that. Like I said, I don't necessarily agree with what I'm saying. I think it will still launch in like October, but it is definitely just fun to think about. So leave your thoughts down below. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you all out there on the battlefield.